and welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today excited to dive into the playthrough for Cthulhu Death May Die Season 2, Episode 6, The Endgame. That is the scenario we are playing, and we're going up against Hastur, the Elder One, and we've already set up our two main characters thanks to my patrons on Patreon, selecting Bert and Tina to get started here. We're going to go over not only the characters we've selected, but the background story, our objectives, and take a look over the scenario to plan our very first turn. The overarching goal of this game is cooperatively, we're working together in order to disrupt the ritual going on, as well as killing the Elder One, in this case, Hastur. Now, killing the Elder One involves taking on stage 1, 2, 3, and the final stage of the Elder One you've chosen in order to defeat it. Now let's talk about the ways in which we can lose a game of Death May Die. There are 3 of them. The first one is an investigator being killed or consumed by madness before the Elder One is summoned to the game board. So right now, Hastur is not summoned into the scenario itself. It's still on the summoning track. So while Hastur is on the summoning track, if an investigator goes crazy or dies from wounds, we lose. That's the first way. The second way we can lose this entire thing is if all investigators are killed or consumed by madness once the Elder One has been summoned into the scenario with us. So keep an eye on that as well. Don't want that to occur. And the final way is if the progression token, which is sitting underneath of Hastur, currently reaches the last or 8th space on the summoning track. That's also game over and a loss. Disrupting the ritual is extremely important, and you'll find the ways in which you do that on the episode card. You can even see it down there at the very bottom. I'll zoom in and we'll read it later on, but I just want to mention what it does for you. Disrupting the ritual is essentially making the Elder One mortal for a short period of time. By disrupting the ritual, you're forcing the Elder One to come off the summoning track into the game world, and you're trying to do it early, really, because if you wait, when it hits that very first red spot on the summoning track, it's going to come in regardless. So that's the key of the game. If you let the Elder One move along the summoning track, and that happens by icons that come up through Mythos cards in a set, which I'll talk about later on, but it's going to progress down this track, and when it hits the first red space, that miniature is coming into our game world, and the problem is if we don't have the ritual disrupted by that point, we can't hurt it, but it can still hurt us. So we need to disrupt the ritual before it hits the first red space, not only to be able to hurt it when it gets spawned in at that moment, but also to be able to give us more time while it's in our world to take it down. So let's talk about this visually here. This is a scenario where we did a really poor job in disrupting the ritual before Hastur ended up landing on the first red spot, which means Hastur, after you do a check to see whether you're on that summoning spot, is going to come into the game board right now. And the rough thing is that we're not going to be able to do any damage to it because we still haven't disrupted the ritual. So Hastur is now on the game tiles with us, causing pain and suffering while we are unable to hurt it because we still haven't disrupted the ritual. We would still have time from now to the end of the game to disrupt the ritual, giving us the ability to weaken the Elder One to then start hammering it with as much wounds as possible to get through all the stages we need to do. Now, what happens here on the summoning track is the second that the Elder One comes in, you'll notice the progression token stays where it's at, but it will continue to move along the track. Again, I'll show you how that works later on as to when that triggers, but this token will be used to represent one of the fail conditions, which is if this token gets to the end of the track, the summoning track, that is going to be a failure. So at this point, this is the worst case scenario because you haven't disrupted the ritual. The Elder One is now in there causing problems with you, and you technically have 3 more triggers on this summoning track before you lose the game. You don't got much time in this scenario. Now let's talk about a much better example where our investigators have actually disrupted the ritual at this point in time in the gameplay, much earlier than that first red circle. So because of this, Hastur would be summoned to the game board, and this provides us additional time as the progression marker is much further back than that prior example. And the other benefit is because we disrupted the ritual early, Hastur is weakened. And because he's weakened, we can immediately start attacking Hastur the second it shows up on the game tiles. That is one of the keys to doing this thing early. If you get stuck in a situation where you don't disrupt the ritual and Hastur gets in there, it gets really stressful really quick. So let's now talk about how we actually disrupt the ritual. It's written right on the episode card, as it is with every single episode that you do. You also have some narrative text as to what's going on here. So it states, on a soundstage in Hollywood, actors rehearsing everywhere. What they don't know is the script is called The King in Yellow, and it will drive everyone mad. We need to find the mastermind behind this and deal with him, but he is Legion. Now it states up there in the black area, to disrupt the ritual, remove all the souls infesting the cult leader, have no unholy life tokens under it. So as of right now, the cult leader has 3 unholy tokens underneath of it. After the ritual is disrupted, remove the cult leader from the board and place a cultist in its space. Then it also mentions what happens as an additional effect when the Elder One advances on the summoning track. We won't worry about this until it actually happens during gameplay. The other 2 areas down here in white are specific actions that can only be taken as part of this episode. So every time you play a new episode, there'll be different actions down here that actually relate to usually what you're trying to accomplish in the game. You have the ability to take actions on your character board and some generic actions across all heroes, but these ones will be very unique to the episode. So we have one action here that says that's enough. Flip a rehearsing actor in your space to their on-break side. So again, we don't want them to complete this rehearsal that they're doing currently. And there's 5 of them rehearsing all over the game tiles right now. We want to flip them to their break side. And then the other one is destroy soul. So in a space with a cult leader, make a roll. If you get 2+ successes, remove 1 unholy life token from under the cult leader and move him to the next normal gate. So there's a gate movement happening with that cultist leader as it pops in and out of the game state. You'll also notice on the Elder One card for the current stage that you're in, and we're in stage number 1, there's an effect and it will tell you the timing of when this actually triggers. So when Hastur advances, and what that means is advance on the summoning track above. So once it advances 1 space, this is one of the things it will do. There's also the one we saw on the episode card just moments ago, so we have to resolve both of those every single time Hastur moves on the summoning track. This one says you gain a yellow sign token, summon 1 Hastur disciple at the nearest gate and 1 cultist at each of the other gates. The Elder One monsters and the episode monsters are all using the same type of iconography. They have the health laid out, they have the dice usage, and they also have abilities that you can keep an eye on and be triggering when they're in use. The cultists are a generic enemy that are included in almost all of the episodes for Cthulhu Death May Die. These cultists worship Hastur, so very straightforward, no ability to resolve there. These Hastur disciples, though, says if this deals you any wounds, choose one. You can take a yellow sign token, you can summon a cultist in this space. It doesn't attack this turn, you have a choice there. For the episode monsters, here's a look at their abilities. We have one here that adds a success when attacking if there are no other investigators in the same space. So if it catches you alone, not good. And then over here for the Shambler, it gains 3 green dice when attacking an investigator within a space of a gate. That's really bad, and it's obviously gaining power as a dimensional Shambler off the gate nearby. Let's do a quick look over of each of the heroes that I have in play here. So Bert is first off, he has some flavor text here. It says the cults would experience more success if they understood mathematics. No one tell them. And then over here, it states each time you take a wound, put the same number of wound tokens on this card. This symbol right here is going to trigger up with this sanity track above. I'll show you how that works when it actually happens. But essentially when we land this marker on one of those, we'll be triggering this card and its effects. It says if there are no tokens on this card, take a wound, otherwise remove all tokens from this card and heal 1 stress per token resolved. Remember earlier when I was talking about the episode having specific actions you can take on your turn? Well, you have the whole turn order listed out right on the dashboard itself, which I absolutely love. It tells you you can take 3 actions on your turn. You can choose to run and move 3 spaces. You can attack 1 enemy. You can rest in a safe space, meaning there's no monsters inside of that space. You can also heal a combination of stress and health as you choose when you're doing that rest. You can choose to trade. You can choose to do an episode action, and that's exactly what those white actions were on the episode card. And then of course you run through the mythos, then you do any investigation or fighting, and then you resolve your end of turn and it moves to the next investigator. Now let's quickly go over the dashboard for Cthulhu Death May Die. For those that are not familiar with the game, you have a stress track right here, so you'll be reducing your stress as you use it over time. You can also gain it back, of course, by resting and a number of other things. You also have a wound track here. You don't want to see your wounds hit the final mark or you're dead. That's not good. And then, of course, up here we have the sanity track. This is probably the most important track that you have going for you because it is a weird balance of trying to stay sane, but also trying to go crazy at the exact same time. Why would you want to do this? Well, the further up the crazy track you go, you are going to start gaining additional dice to your default roll. And those are green dice, which are quite helpful. And so as you become more nuts, you also are essentially becoming more powerful and able to inflict more damage on the Elder One. So timing of when you become powerful is really key. You don't want to go too crazy too fast, or you just flat out die or go nuts or lose the game. But you also want to kind of go nuts in those final portions to be throwing the most amount of dice, giving you the best chances to take the Elder One down. But it's a fun balance all the way through. And finally, on the right-hand side, we have Tina, our other investigator voted on by my patrons, and the condition that came at random is Pyromania. So fire is going to be something with her for sure, and as she moves across her sanity track and hits those trigger points, that is going to have this card inflict all kinds of fun in that situation, which we can potentially use to our advantage, but it also is likely going to throw some hurdles at us as well. And Tina, just like Bert, top row of investigator abilities unique to her character, and then she has the stealth bucket and the brawling bucket. Brawling's actually a really good one. It allows you to really start hounding a lot of enemies at once. And that, my friends, going to do it. We now have a real good idea as to the overview of what we've gotten ourselves into here. We need to disrupt the ritual, which means we need to go after the cultist leader way up there in the top left-hand corner. We start way down here with our 2 investigators. Inside the setup video, we rolled at random, and Bert is the starting character, so we're going to take 3 actions with Bert. It's also worth mentioning, of the actions I have available, you can take the same action more than once. So if you just want to do a whole bunch of moving or a whole bunch of resting, you have that opportunity. Just to clarify something I said earlier where I mentioned that 5 individuals were rehearsing, there is actually only 4. The setup doesn't change, just misspoke. These are the 4 individuals that are rehearsing, and we can actually get them on their break side by flipping them over and interacting with them. Now, the reason that's really important is because when the Elder One advances, each investigator is going to take 1 stress for each rehearsing actor within 1 space of them, or wounds if they can't take the stress. So once your stress gets way up there, you start taking damage from all these people rehearsing their parts as part of this creepy play. And you're also going to add 1 unholy life token under the cult leader. When the cult leader moves, the tokens underneath them, of course, go with them. So really, if we do not get these individuals to stop rehearsing, that cult leader just keeps getting more powerful, which makes the chances of us disrupting the ritual that much harder. The first action I'm going to take is to move with Bert, and I can move up to 3 spaces. It's worth noting if I move into a space with an enemy, I can continue moving out of it if I wish, but all the enemies that were there in that space follow me. So that's kind of one of the kickers with this one is, yes, you can run through enemies, they're just going to all come with you. For now, I'm only going to move 1 space, so I'm just going to go right into the area with the rehearsing token. We're going to go ahead and use the That's Enough action on the episode card to flip a rehearsing actor in your space to their on-break side. So that rehearsing actor is now taking a break, indicated by the individual sitting on a chair doing literally nothing. And at this point, I have 1 more action to spend, but I really don't want to spend it. There's nothing else I want to do currently. Normally there would be. But the reason I don't want to spend that last action is because if I end my turn in a space without enemies, I don't have to deal with any enemies first off, and I get to grab a discovery card, which you'll see. Now, it's also worth mentioning when you're moving, you have to move between tiles that have arrows pointing to each other. In other words, the move has to be valid. So you can see small arrows right here between the tiles telling you that you can move between these 2. There'll be other ones that are joined up that you won't be able to go through. So for a good example is way up here, there's an arrow pointing in here, but the wall here does not have an arrow going back out. So from this room right here, you could not walk into here, nor could you walk from here into here. When an investigator ends their turn, we go to the Mythos phase. We draw the Mythos card off the top of the deck. We got Suicide Pact. Each investigator with 2 or more yellow sign tokens takes 1 wound. Good thing we haven't taken on those tokens. At least now we know what kind of bad things can potentially happen from getting those tokens. But we can resolve the bottom portion, which is we're going to summon a cultist at the blue portal. Everything seemed pretty tame and quiet over there in the corner with the leader, but the cultist leader's busy bringing in friends. A cultist spawns at the blue gate, and that Mythos card has been resolved. It's important to note that Mythos cards after they're resolved are discarded into a pile unless they happen to have the same icon that's at the very far end of the summoning track. Then you're going to put those off to the side and you're going to wait until you have a complete set of 3 of them, at which point you are going to reshuffle all the cards back into the deck and move the individual along the summoning track. You'll see this in practice and the timing of it exactly when we actually do it in the near future. At this point, we move to investigating or fighting, depending on if there's enemies in the same space as Bert, which there are not. So because we're in a safe space, we get to draw a discovery card. Always start by reading the middle section of the discovery card, which here states extras. You always need people in the background, right? You may claim either the stunt double or the costume. The stunt double says other investigators in your space may also deal wounds they would take to the stunt double. So basically you got a stunt double. It has 2 health it can take before it is discarded. It can basically take wounds on your behalf and on the behalf of others too, which is pretty cool. The costume on the other side, if we choose that, says you may sneak past one cultist when leaving a space it does not follow you. Heal 1 stress each time you sneak past a cultist. That is really handy. I decided to have Bart take the costume instead of the stunt double. I really think this card could be extremely useful on Tina. It might be something we trade to her in the future. At this point, we're now resolving the end of turn, so if any end of turn effects apply, we do them. There isn't any yet. If we have fire on us, we resolve that. You'll see it later if we ever have fire on us. We then check the Mythos discard pile, basically within the discard pile, or I'll set them aside so you guys can see them more clearly. There's an icon. If we get 3 of those particular icons, then the Elder One advances, and you go ahead and apply all the effects that would happen across the Elder One and the episode cards, and then you reshuffle the Mythos deck back together. And that's really the key of that thing, is that Mythos deck, even though we saw the Suicide Pact card come out, once we trigger a movement on the summoning track, the Mythos deck gets rebuilt and that card goes right back in. So you kind of start to gain a little bit of knowledge as to the bad things that can happen to you throughout the episode as you play it. And that's a really cool aspect of the strategy of the game. The next thing we do is we check to see if the Elder One is summoning at this point. Again, it has to reach the red space or the ritual has to be disrupted. That's not happening yet, and I probably won't mention this again until it does. And then finally, the Elder One end of turn effects, if there are any on the card. And there aren't currently, so we can move right into Tina's turn. We take a look at Tina's abilities that are active based on the tentacle markers we have. At the very top, it says once per roll before rolling dice, you may take 1 wound to gain a green die. That sounds very helpful. Stealth says when you run, you may sneak once. One enemy doesn't follow you. That's going to be really handy. Could be handy even right now because I kind of want to get to this rehearsing actor up here and I could sneak right past this cultist with her. She'd go 1, 2, and into the room afterwards for 3 and not have to have this cultist follow, which is automatic normally thanks to that ability using her stealth. Could be useful. And again, that's a passive ability. We don't have to roll for that. It's just automatic if we choose to use it. And then down at the bottom here, we have Brawling, which is a great skill set. You gain a green die when attacking a target in your space. So if we get into this space up here, there is a cultist up here as well. That skill can then passively help us as well. Tina's first action will be to move. And she sneaks right by the cultist outside near the streetlights and gets inside the room with the rehearsing actor and another cultist. For my second action, Tina's going to go ahead and attack the cultist in her space, so her brawling skill is going to help her, gaining her a green die when attacking a target in that space. She gets by default when making a roll 3 black dice, and that brawling skill, passive one, gives her a green die into the fray, which is great. There's other ways to gain dice into your pool. You could potentially go a little nuts and go up the track to here, for instance, to gain a die. There's other passive ways as well. For now, we got this, which is pretty good because we only need 2 successes off exclamation marks in order to kill off a cultist. They only have 2 health, so that's good news. We can't use the Elder Sign to our advantage currently. There are specific abilities and investigators that can make use of the Elder Sign using their arcane mastery, for instance, in order to convert Elder Signs to successes. And Bert is actually one of those individuals, so you will see that in the future. So here we go. This time around, looking for just exclamation marks. Hopefully not a lot of tentacles. We got 1, we got 2, wow, we got a lot of success. So we got way more success than we need. Now, we have to make a decision on whether we want to re-roll anything. Now, stress is a very, very useful thing. I've spent 1 stress right now in order to re-roll a die that I don't necessarily want right now, and that is one that comes along with a sanity hit, which will move my sanity marker up 1. I'm not at the point in the game where I really want to try and go crazy. I like to try and hold that off. So while things are calm, I'll use a stress to re-roll this die and hope that it doesn't land on a tentacle. It also is a good time to do it because I already have the guaranteed 2 successes I need to kill the cultist. So let's go ahead and roll this off, and I got exactly the same result, so that didn't work out. Now the question is it worth it to continue to stress myself out to try to get rid of this 1 point of sanity, or just be done with it and take it? that really is the fun part. And it's not just simply about whether you take stress or not and run down your stress to the end. Not having available stress to use can come back to haunt you in Mythos cards, effects from the Elder One, which can then circulate back and hit you with wounds. So you have to be careful not to be just burning rerolls like crazy, knocking your stress down in order to just try and get the die result you want. But sometimes it can be worth it. So for me, I'm going to be a little bit nuts. We're going to go an extra time here because I really think I can actually get rid of this sanity hit. There we go. And we still have the successes we need, but it took us 2 stress to do it. So Tina makes quick work of the cultist up top. And her final action is going to be to use the episode action That's Enough to flip the rehearsing actor over to his on-break side. Just like that, we've got 2 of the actors now on break. We just need to work on the other 2. We now head to the Mythos deck at the end of Tina's turn, and the card off the top is called Naming the Nameless. You'll see this giant icon here on the card. If you get 3 of these later in Tina's turn, when you're doing the resolving of end of turn, you're going to, at that point, move the Elder One down the summoning track if you have 3 of these in the discard area. So we only have 1 right now, but we start counting them up from here. So we'll skip this for now, go down to the next part. It says each investigator rolls 1 black die for each yellow sign token they have. Thankfully we don't have any. They take 1 wound for each success and lose a sanity for each tentacle rolled. So bad either way. And then of course we got this summoning of another cultist, this time at the yellow gate. So just to keep it visual and remind myself when I eventually hit 3 of those icons on the Mythos cards that are discarded, I place the one that I just got just above the Mythos deck. That card above and the one to the right, they're all considered discarded Mythos cards. I'm just keeping them separate so I can easily and visually see when I hit 3 of them so I don't miss it, because it's an important step. A cultist also spawns at the yellow gate right here. At this point, we investigate or fight because there are no enemies inside her space. She gets to investigate and she digs around and discovers some pyrotechnics. This is a big bang provided to you by Hollywood. You can take 2 stress. Of course, this would use stress as a currency. See, this is a great reminder that using stress not only for die rolls can come into play, but also for discovery cards. We can take 2 stress if we want to claim this card. We don't have to, but if we do, we can choose either the fuel bomb or the fireworks side of the card. Fuel bomb says discard this card before rolling an attack to gain 3 green dice. Place a fire token in your space for every elder sign you roll in this attack. So lots of fire potentially. And then the fireworks one, and it's still a really powerful attack. That would be huge with 3 green dice. Fireworks on this side is discard this card before rolling during an attack to be able to target an enemy in an adjacent space and gain a green die. So a little bit safer, a little less powerful though. I'm going to have Tina risk it, so she's going to go ahead and take the fireworks side, which is a little bit less powerful than the fuel bomb, but it does gain us the advantage to be able to attack from range, which is handy because neither of my characters currently have that ability. I got to get in the same space currently based on the abilities I have unlocked, so as of right now, range is a decent thing. And that also maxes out her stress track, which of course could have negative impacts in the future. Tina's turn is now done. We're moving back over to Bert, and we have 3 actions. What will we do with Bert? I'm going to have Bert move right into the same space here as a cultist. There are arrows pointing here so we can cross right over. Bert moves into this space here and is now going to perform an attack. He has some pretty cool abilities he could make use of. Bert is going to make a roll for his attack. He gets his basic 3 black dice out of the gates. He also has some abilities here that can help him. The Arcane Mastery here says when making any roll, you can count 1 Elder Sign as a success. So that's pretty good. That'd be this right here, for instance. Toughness also gives me a free reroll when attacking or rolling for fire. So we get 1 free reroll that we don't have to use stress for. So that's good. Let's see if we can get the successes we need. We just need 1 Elder Sign and 1 exclamation mark, or just 2 exclamation marks to kill off this cultist at 2 health. There we go, we got it. That is, we didn't even need the Elder Sign. That is a kill, and we're good to go. Bert ends up killing off the cultist with ease. Now, based on where I'm currently at, I can't use any episode actions. I don't need to rest because I'm doing really well on that front. Don't need to attack anybody. Really, the only thing I can do is trade or move. But moving would put me into a situation where I'd potentially be in with these guys, or I'd be moving through and dragging them all into one area and then getting hammered because I'd be completely out of actions by that point. That's not something I want to do, so I'm going to stay still. The yellow sign, if you are in the same space as Hastur or a Hastur disciple, take 2 stress. For each stress you cannot take 1 wound. If you are not in the same space, gain a yellow sign token. Looks like we're getting our very first one. That is not good. The yellow sign token I placed just next to the player board for Bert. Now that the space is clear, he's going to dig around and discover something here. He finds something related to science or magic. He finds props. You may take 2 stress to claim either the beaker or the prop amulet. The beaker says discard this card before rolling your attack to gain 3 green dice. If you do, place 2 fire tokens in your space. Or the prop amulet, which says once per attack before rolling, you may place 1 fire token in your space to gain a green die. Very interesting. The one on the right, you don't have to discard. You get to use that over and over and over again every single time you attack once per an attack. The other one you would discard to gain a really powerful outcome. I skipped out on the really powerful side of the other discovery for Tina, so why don't we take the powerful side for Bert instead? I spent 2 stress and we now have a beaker that could be really handy against one of the bigger enemies. We now head back over to Tina, and I know exactly where I want to head with Tina, into the same room as Bert. From here, we're going to do a little trade. I'm going to trade over an item, the costume, to Tina. The costume is labeled as an item, and you can exchange any number of items and companions between your characters when you're doing a trade action. However, of course, they have to be in the same space, and the only real constraint is when you trade the card, the person that's receiving the card cannot choose the other side of the card that wasn't chosen originally. So in this case, it was a costume chosen, so I have to give the costume. I cannot switch it to the alternate side of the card. At this point, I'm going to use some fireworks. We might as well be a little bit loud when we enter the main area where somebody's rehearsing. Maybe we'll scare them into taking a break. So we're going to go ahead and use as a final action the fireworks, discarding this card, being able to roll a green die along with the rest of the dice that Tina can roll, which is the 3 black dice. She won't be able to use her brawling skill because she won't be in the same space as the individual. So in this case, 3 black, 1 green going up against 1 cultist. Just before I go ahead and toss the fireworks from Tina into an adjacent room, which will target this room right here, I want to also mention the fact that there are arrows right here within the same tile, letting you know that this space up top is a completely separate area. So in other words, if we can kill off this cultist here, we can head into those rooms over there without having to deal with them, of course, unless they move or something else triggers some kind of different behavior. But this firework should hopefully take care of this individual right here. So we got 1 green die in the fray, 3 black dice. I could take a wound as part of her special ability to add another green die, but I still think that's overkill for a single cultist. And we're only able to target 1 person anyway in an adjacent space, so I think 1 green die is good enough. Let's see how we do. Perfect. We got exactly what we wanted to see. We didn't take any sanity hits whatsoever. And that's going to do it for her turn. At this point, we're going to go ahead and grab a Mythos card. That discovery card I just used with fireworks has been discarded. The cultist is gone as well. This is a big one. The Mythos card we have here is Hastur's Disciple. We also have that icon again, so that is now 2 icons, getting us closer and closer to 3. It states here, the nearest Hastur Disciple moves 2 spaces towards you. There isn't one currently, but it states down below to summon a Hastur Disciple at the red spawn. This is the very first time that the Hastur Disciple has shown up. You'll see that I'm keeping track of those icons up top there as well. And remember, these disciples are nasty. When you take wounds from them, you have to choose one of the following, either taking a yellow sign token, which we know that has negative effects, or summoning a cultist in this space. It doesn't attack the person at the time, but it brings in more enemies. So these disciples are a serious problem. What did I tell you about pushing yourself on the stress side of the equation? Well, it's a risk, and it looks like it's going to hit me here. I got myself a megaphone. It says, make sure people know where they should be. You may take 2 stress to claim the megaphone. If you do not, you have to claim the doom condition. The doom condition, because I have to claim this because I have no stress to pay for the megaphone, it says at the end of each of your turns, if there is a rehearsing actor within 1 space of you, you lose a sanity. So a priority for me in coming turns is to try and get Tina's stress back down so that she doesn't get into a situation where she gets a condition like that. You'll also see that I missed out on a really cool card in terms of its megaphone ability, which would have been really useful for messing around with the rehearsing actors. And because it's the end of Tina's turn, the doom condition triggers right now. It states right on it, at the end of each of your turns, if there is a rehearsing actor within 1 space of you, you lose a sanity. So as you can see over here, we have 1 rehearsing actor 1 space away. So as long as I can get these actors on their break, this doom condition won't hurt me that much. But as of right now, it's going to be a problem. Now it's time for Bert to activate. He's going to move into this room from here, and he's also going to move into here. This enemy is going to tag onto him as he moves into his final space here, because again, I get 3 points of movement and all the enemies follow me. That was one action, and now we're going to go ahead and make some attacks to try and take this individual down. 3 damage is what we need to do it. Let's get some dice going. Bert has his pool of dice to make the roll, 3 black dice. He also has the ability to use Arcane Mastery and Toughness to his advantage. Let's go ahead and see how we do. Got ourselves 3 successes, but 1 loss of sanity. Now, we do need 3 successes to take this individual down, so that was a perfect roll. Do I want to risk re-rolling to try to get rid of the sanity hit that I would take and hope that I get just a clean success? I don't know if it's worth that risk. Now, on the opposite side of the coin here, I didn't have any Elder Signs, didn't need them anyway, so can't use that Arcane Mastery ability, but I think I'm just going to sit tight with this, so we're going to resolve things. I'll take that extra point of sanity there, but the 3 hits will take out the enemy. So Bert does his job, and this enemy is off the game board. So now we are clear. We only have 1 action left, which is perfect. We're in a room with a rehearsing actor. So we're going to go ahead and interact here doing the that's enough action, flipping this actor over to their break side. So Bert did his job pretty good, and at this point we're now going to go ahead and draw a Mythos card. This Mythos card is called the King in Yellow, and we choose one right now. So the first thing we could do is each investigator rolls 1 black die for each yellow sign token they have. They take 1 wound for each success and lose 1 sanity for each tentacle rolled. Now, Bert is the only one right now with one of those yellow sign tokens. So I'd only be rolling 1 black die. Tina doesn't have any, so we won't even have to worry about that. So that actually might be the best option for us because the one below looks really bad. It says, or we could choose at the end of the turn to advance Hastur on the track as if there were 3 of those symbols up there from the Mythos card. I really don't want to do that. Bad idea. Let's take the top half of the card. Let's go ahead and roll a die for Bert, see what happens. We got a Elder Sign. That is probably a good thing. Let me see. Take 1 wound for each success and lose a sanity for each tentacle. So that is the best thing we could have gotten besides a blank. So we dodged a bullet there. That's pretty awesome. This one is called Director. It says, we went and got some real weapons from some of our sets. You may take 2 stress to claim the Director. The Director is an individual that has 1 health, so can take some damage for you. And then, of course, the card is discarded. Now, it has an ability here that says you may take 3 stress to flip all actors on their break side. Wow, that's really powerful. I am definitely going to spend 2 stress to take the Director because, well, if you can't, you have to claim the Doom condition, and Tina actually has a similar condition already like this. We don't want it on Bert, so let's go ahead and pay the stress. And thankfully, I have the stress in order to do that, so we'll drop ourselves down by 2, and we have the Director slotted in on the right. For the end of turn section, we're good to go. Nothing to do here. The only person that has an end of turn card that affects us at this point in time would be Tina, but it's not Tina's turn, but we are moving to Tina's turn right now. Heading into Tina's turn here, you can see both of the characters, well, they've used all of the stress they have allotted. So one of the things I want to do with Tina right at the gates here is to rest. So we're going to rest and choose to use all 3 points to recover stress. Now, again, you can mix it up and recover wounds and or stress. Up to 3, your choice, how you want to divvy that up. But for me right now, Tina really needs to recover that stress. The reason being is we are getting closer and closer to the Elder One advancing on the summoning track up here. And that's based on the cards we have way up in the top right-hand corner where we have 2 of those Mythos cards with the icon on them. We get a 3rd one, the Elder One advances. That's going to trigger this ability right here, which will have us put a stress on each of our characters if we're within 1 of any rehearsing actor. We do have 1 rehearsing actor left because everybody else is on a break. The funny thing is if your stress is maxed out, based on what it's worded here, you take a wound instead. So then you start getting hurt on this track down below, which leads you to death over time. So we're going to try to avoid that, keep our stress up enough we can take it. But another way to mitigate that is to just have Tina head right in here and let's, use the episode action as we have. That's enough in order to turn this individual over. So Tina ended up resting for 1 action, moving for another action, and then interacting and using the episode action to flip over the final rehearsing actor. So everybody now that is an actor is now taking a break. Check this out. The Mythos card that came off the top of the deck is called Curtain Call. It says to flip all actors within 1 space view to their rehearsing side. So this actor basically was told by Tina to stop rehearsing, take a break, decided to fake it for a few minutes while we weren't looking, and then started to chant again, causing us a sanity hit. So the actor is right back to work, and we're going to go up 1 on the sanity track, which will put us in the 2nd position for Tina. And that's going to move us closer to a triggering position, which we'll talk about later on. Now, she is in a safe space because the actors are not considered monsters, so we have Sun or Moon as a discovery here. It says, props for the Astronomer's Curse. You may take 2 stress to claim either the Moon Knife or the Sun Knife. So the Sun Knife, once per attack before rolling, you may take 1 wound to gain 2 green dice. That's pretty cool. The Moon Knife says when attacking, you may count any number of the sanity icons as successes. They still also count as sanity hits as well. Honestly, both of those options were really good. It was hard to decide between them. I'm going to spend 2 stress. I'm definitely choosing to take the Sun Knife. Ending off Tina's turn, unfortunately, she has the Doom condition up here, which does state that if she ends her turn and she's within 1 space of a rehearsing actor, she's going to take another hit of sanity. So she is slowly creeping her way up that crazy track. Now we head back to Bert, who obviously is heading right towards the cult leader, so he's going to move into the same space as the cult leader and the cultist there. The cultist absolutely did not expect someone to come busting through the door, and now I need to choose what I want to do next. My second action is going to be to attack. I'm definitely going after the cult leader. The aim here is to whittle the unholy life tokens underneath the cult leader down to nothing. So that is my aim. I need to do the Destroy Soul episode action to do this, and I need to make a roll and get 2 successes. Now, again, I have the Elder Sign bonus from Arcane Mastery for Bert, so one of the Elder Signs could be converted if I get one, and then I also have 1 free reroll, but I only have 3 black dice, so we'll see how this goes. I need 2 successes. Let's see if we can make this happen. If it doesn't, I'll have to make a hard choice. So let's see what we get. Oh, that's a lot of sanity hits. Okay, so we do have 1 free reroll. We got a success. That's good, so let's reroll one of these sanity hits. See if we can convert it to a success. No, it did not work out. That is not good news. Okay, so, oh, that's the worst. So here's the thing. I'm also completely maxed out on my stress, so I can't even force a reroll at this point. And again, I wanted to get into the room immediately to make as many attacks as possible to try to hit the cult leader as quickly as possible. I'm just trying to stay ahead of the summoning of Hastur and to get this ritual complete. So I might have pushed myself a little bit there. I've got a 3rd action to go, so I could try this again, which is probably what I'll do. It's still risky because obviously it didn't work out this time, so it might not work out again, but we're going to go for it. So 3rd attack now, let's try this. Now, in terms of cards that I have that I could use, I mean, I do have the Beaker. I could discard a card before rolling to gain 3 green dice, but then I'm placing fire in my space, and like, yeah, I would probably get that life point off, but it would be a little bit overkill and also kind of punishing for myself, so probably not the best idea yet. Instead, let's just go ahead with a regular attack here and see how we do. Oh, that's a better outcome. So we got ourselves these 2 here. And actually, one thing I did forget to do is that from that prior attack, even though it missed, I still take the point of sanity that I had left over from that other roll. So Bert was on the 1st position of his sanity track. He's going to the 2nd position for that prior roll. Now with this roll, I've got 2 successes and a sanity hit. I do have a reroll, but I certainly don't want to bother trying to reroll this to get that sanity away. It's too risky. I want to be able to take off that token, so we'll take another hit of sanity for Bert. So now Bert and Tina are 1 away from their trigger points on their dashboard, but the good news is we've knocked off a token off the cult leader. So the cult leader started with 3 unholy life tokens underneath, now down to 2, so that's good. It then states here that the cult leader, after being hit, when one gets taken out from underneath of him, you move the cult leader to the next normal gate in the order of blue, then yellow, then red, and then back to blue, and it just cycles. So blue is where we're currently at, so this cult leader is heading to this corner over here. So it isn't going to be one of those situations where you're going to sit in the same room and just keep hitting the same individual over and over and over again. You're going to have to run now to the opposite end of the scenario here and continue chasing the cult leader as it moves through the gates. It's also worth noting that once we hit it in the yellow location, it'll move to the red one. And yes, the red location's up there with the really gigantic dimensional shambler. That's going to do it for Bert's turn. I don't have any more actions left to spend, and for the first time, I'm actually in a room with an enemy. We'll deal with that in a second. The next thing we do, draw a Mythos card. Well, it was bound to happen. The icon finally popped. We got the 3rd one, so we'll be dealing with that at the end of Bert's turn. For now, we go here, lose a sanity for each rehearsing actor within 1 space you. Thankfully, it's not going to affect Bert, so we're good. Nothing lost there, but this is going to cause a trigger very soon. So Bert is not in a safe space because there's an enemy here which is going to attack. That enemy is a cultist. It has 2 green dice which are coming his way. It is worth noting one of the coolest factors of this game is the fact that if you do have any stress to spend, which I don't with Bert right now, I've used every little bit of it, but if I did, I can even use stress to re-roll the monster's dice after they roll. So you can actually mitigate the monster's rolls using your stress. But again, if you're not managing your stress well, like I'm not doing a good job with Bert, I'm pushing myself maybe a little too hard and not resting enough, I don't have that opportunity here. I take what I get off these dice, which can be pretty bad depending on how things pan out. So here we go. We got ourselves a success. The Elder Signs do not give anything. If it did, it would have some kind of ability on the card or something to specify that, but that is 1 hit, 1 wound to Bert. 1 wound for Bert here. You can see it doesn't take many wounds to get to the end of this track. Rolling into the end of turn now, we do have something we need to resolve, and that is the Mythos discard having 3 of these icons in it, which is going to trigger the summoning track. We are going to be moving the Elder One 1 space, advancing it along the track, and then triggering any results of that advancement as well. We'll talk about that in a second. Something else you do is, because these 3 icons have shown up in the Mythos discard, these 3 cards go on top of the rest of the discarded cards there on the right. We're going to put all of them back into the Mythos deck and shuffle it all back up. That's right. So even if you've seen some of what the deck has to offer, it all gets mixed up again and comes back out completely different. And it's going to be different because, well, we didn't see all the Mythos cards first off, and also the order of them are obviously going to change, but we at least have some advanced knowledge as to what some of the nastiness that can come from this deck has for us in the future. Hastur and the progression tokens sitting underneath the miniature are going to both move down the summoning track by 1. Hastur here has a when Hastur advances effect we'll deal with, as well as there's one here on the episode card. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of the game, Hastur will automatically summon into the game and cause us a whole bunch of pain and suffering the second it hits the first red circle, or we could disrupt the ritual, which we're attempting to do right now and working our way by killing this cult leader off and get Hastur into the game earlier and be able to attack it sooner. It states on this card that when Hastur advances, you gain a yellow sign token, so Bert will be getting his 2nd yellow sign token. Then you're going to summon 1 Hastur disciple at the nearest gate to Bert, and then a cultist at each of the other gates. Unfortunately, Bert has now received another yellow sign token. The nearest gate to Bert is obviously the one inside the space he's in, so we have a Hastur disciple showing up there, and cultists at the other 2. That resolves Hastur's Elder One card. Let's check out when the Elder One advances on the episode card. Each investigator is going to take 1 stress for each rehearsing actor within 1 space of them, or wounds if they can't take the stress. Good news is I rested up with Tina. She has the ability to take 1 more stress. So we'll put her at her maximum. So that's good news. No wounds for Tina. So I'm going ahead, bumping her stress up to the very top. And then it says to add 1 unholy life token under the cult leader, which is not good. And then when the cult leader moves, the tokens underneath move with him. So unfortunately, everything that we just did got erased because the cult leader just gained an unholy token underneath of it, preserving its life even longer. So what did we learn? We learned we need to hit this cult leader multiple times before the next time the Elder One advances on the summoning track, because when it does, it's going to gain another token. So we need to go after it and hit it hard. We also have to be aware of the fact it's going to be jumping gates. So we're going to need to put both of our investigators at the gates, maybe 1 heading to yellow and 1 heading to red. But I can tell you right now, red is looking pretty tough. All right, that's going to do it for Bert. We're now moving over to Tina. Tina is at least closer to where the cult leader has moved. She also probably needs to do some resting, but at the same time, I'm very tempted to just go and attack the cult leader really hard, really quick. For Tina's turn, I'm going to aggressively run into the room with the cult leader and the cultist. My odds of attack are a little bit better with Tina. I get a green die thanks to my brawling ability when attacking a target in my space, so that's good. Also, I could take a wound to gain another green one, but I'm not going to push myself that hard. The cool ability that I have, which could work out if I land this second action attack here, is if I hit the cult leader, I can then move out of this space using stealth, and the other cultist that's in here will not follow me, and I won't have to deal with it. So that is another option, or I could just, attack it and kill it if I wanted to, but you never know, I might fail the roll. So here we go, let's see how it happens. We really need to get a success here. Come on, 2, yes, we got it. Okay, so we got what we needed. We are going to take 1 point of sanity. That is actually going to trigger her. She's at 1 of those points on her sanity track. I took an unholy life token off the cult leader. I've moved the cult leader to the red gate. Tina here now takes that point of sanity, landing on one of these trigger points. This space right here on the sanity track is known as the insanity threshold, and you'll also see the same symbol up here on the card we got from the patient files earlier. We know that Tina is a pyromania. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. What I want to talk about now, though, is how you can hit that particular threshold in different ways. So one is, like I just did, I rolled the perfect amount of tentacles, which forced me onto that threshold. I only needed one, and I got the one in the roll, so it lands me right on it, and we're done. We stop right there. The other way you can hit it is if I rolled dice and I was sitting here and let's say I got 2 tentacles. Well, you don't actually move 2 spaces up the sanity track. That threshold stops you dead in your tracks. So if you're fighting up against an enemy that's going to throw a whole bunch of tentacles or sanity hits essentially against you, actually butting up against one of these thresholds can actually be a strategy to be there, to be able to protect yourself from taking a large amount of it in one giant hit. So that's something to be aware of. Either way, whether you hit it exactly or go flying over it, you're going to stop at the threshold and you're going to trigger the ability that's up here. So it says put a fire token in your space. We'll do that in a second. And then deal wounds equal to the number of fire tokens in your space to all other figures there. So this actually works out really good. And that's because Tina left a cultist in this space. So when the fire lands here, the cultist is going to take some damage. Now it does state all other figures there, so that includes other investigators if they happen to have been there, but also of course monsters or enemies. So in this case, 1 fire token is going to make sure that 1 damage or 1 wound goes against the cultist. The other thing that's awesome about hitting an insanity threshold and why there's this fun balance of trying to go nuts but also not die at the very end of the track is because certain thresholds will have a die underneath of it, meaning your base dice automatically start jumping up. So you start with 3 black dice and that's all you have. Of course, you have the ability to use any of your investigator abilities to bolster that, which I did with Tina. I think Tina gives me a green one in most cases thanks to the brawling ability, but I can also, as by default, get another green one the next time I land on this threshold, and it's something you just get to keep going forward. So this starts stacking on itself as you go more and more insane up the track. Of course, you go too far, well, you just fall into madness at that point. Now on this insanity threshold, there is no die icon, so I get nothing to bolster my base dice, but what I do get every time I hit a threshold, regardless of whether there's a die symbol there or not, is an automatic upgrade to one of the skills, and I get to pick which one I want to push up the track. So I'm looking at what Tina has in store in the future, heading into a space with multiple enemies, and I'm thinking that bumping up her brawling ability could be really, really good. It's a really tough call between all of these, but this one here says when you attack, you can target any number of figures in your space and split the wounds as you want, and that's one of the key things. So if I happen to have a really good or make a really good roll or attack and I land like 4 damage, I could kill 1 cultist with 2 of the damage and then put the other 2 damage against the dimensional shambler. It allows you to basically start brawling more characters in your space instead of just targeting 1. For Tina's last action, I'm going to choose for her to just leave the area with the cultist. Now, when she leaves an area with fire, she takes that many markers, fire markers, onto her dashboard. So she's going to take 1 fire marker on the dashboard for leaving the space, but she can leave because she's got the costume on and she can sneak away from this 1 cultist, which is great. So Tina is on her way towards where all the excitement is, up there in the top right-hand corner, to try and hit the cult leader again. It's worth mentioning she's taken a fire marker placed on her dashboard for leaving a space with the 1 here. The other reason for leaving is that she would have been within 1 of this actor who is currently rehearsing. At the end of her turn, she would take stress for this, and she's already at her max, which means she'd take a hit or a wound. I don't want her getting hurt before she goes into a giant pile of action in the near future, so we're going to get her into a safe space, and then we can at least try to determine maybe at the beginning of the next turn whether we should rest first before we dive in, or whether we should just go in guns blazing. Of course, the fact both my characters have had all of their stress fully used for the majority of the game is not how I normally play. So this episode is very different in that I'm very much under the gun trying to make sure I'm knocking off those unholy tokens from this cultist leader fast enough before they get replenished. And just for those that haven't seen the costume ability in a bit, the one that I just used in order to sneak away from the cultist, you can read it there. Well, this is unfortunate, and it honestly wouldn't have changed much if I had moved or stayed where I was, because not only did we get the icon, which is going to start another set of 3 here in the future, but we got this: move the dimensional shambler 2 spaces towards you. So if we had stayed in this hallway area here, it still would have made it to us, but it is coming into the same space as Tina right now. So the Shambler shows up in the same area as Tina, and of course the bottom portion of that card had a summoning one, but there is only one in the game, so nothing's happening as it's already on the board. Now what's really unfortunate about that Mythos card is that now I'm not in a safe space. I'm taking an attack from this dimensional Shambler. This just went from bad to worse because not only is it 3 black dice, it's also going to gain 3 green dice when attacking an investigator within 1 space of a gate. And it wouldn't have mattered whether I stayed where I was with Tina or if I had to move to where I moved. I would have been within 1 space of a gate in either case. So we got a lot of dice coming our way. This is really bad. I have all the dice in hand. I can at max take 4 wounds with Tina and still be standing. If I take a 5th, I'm done. So here's hoping that doesn't happen. Here we go. Okay, that was pretty bad. That is 4 wounds. That was a 1 away from a kill and a game-ending situation. Tina is now in some serious trouble as she is now on the brink of death from wounds. Tina is still not out of the woods yet. She has to make a fire roll now as part of her end of turn. This could kill her too, because we have to roll a black die for every fire token on her character board. She's got 1 right now. So we're going to be rolling 1 black die. If we see any successes in the form of exclamation marks, that is it. We are done. This is the fastest playthrough ever. Tina is dead. Now, if we roll a tentacle, we are going to take a sanity hit. Of course, if we rolled something like this, we would take both. Elder Sign does nothing, and blanks are nothing. So we really want to see an Elder Sign or a blank. That's really what we're gunning for here. So let's see how it pans out. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. And thankfully, we don't have to worry about anything else end of turn because her doom condition does not trigger because we're not within 1 space of a rehearsing actor anywhere around her. That would have also been a problem because an immediate stress right now would be a wound, which would have killed her. So things are just way too tight right now. Speaking of bad situations, I'm in a room with a pretty nasty Hastur disciple and a cultist here, and I'm starting Bert's turn, and I'm wondering whether the beaker might be worth using. One thing that I just caught that I want to make sure I correct is when I took the first wound on Bert, I should have also put the same number of wounds up here on this card as well. That'll matter when he eventually, or very soon, hits this next insanity threshold. Well, to be completely honest, I don't have too much of a choice here. I pretty much need to take these individuals down this space. If I decide to run away with them and maybe head towards Tina in order to help her out, I'm really just bringing a whole bunch of problems her way. And I don't want Bert to get into the same type of situation that Tina is where she's on the brink of death. So we should probably take care of what's here. The other thing is where the cult leader is now at red, when we take another unholy life token off of it, if we get the opportunity to do so, it will come back to the blue gate and it will be clear at that point, giving us a chance maybe to be able to pull it off inside of this time frame before the next advancement on the summoning track. But again, that's, happy path thinking if we get there. So let's go ahead with Bert here and we're going to make an attack. I'll start off with the Hastur Disciple because that's the nastiest of the two. In terms of what it could do to me, it only needs 2 hits to kill it, so that's not bad. I have 3 black dice going into this. Again, I have everything I have normally with Bert, so I can convert 1 Elder Sign, and I also have a free reroll as well. So here we go. Let's see how we do. Nice. Okay, that worked out perfect. And actually, the question is now, do I want to reroll that sanity thing away? Now, if I take a look at what would happen if it triggered, for my condition, it says if there are no tokens on this card, take 1 wound, which I do have 1 wound on that condition card just off screen here, and it's this one right here, which I will zoom in on in a little bit. And it states here, otherwise remove all tokens from this card and heal 1 stress per token removed. So actually wouldn't be bad because it would give me a stress back. So I think we'll go ahead and do it. So Bert has hit the insanity threshold here, and that's going to trigger this. If there was no tokens on the card, I take a wound right now. There is, and when I take this wound off of it, it's actually going to heal a stress back for me, which is nice. Don't gain any dice from this, but I do get to up one of these 3, so I can choose which one I want. Now, I don't have a ton of dice with Bert, but one of the ones that will certainly help me out a lot is this one right here, which would allow me to count any number of Elder Signs as successes. That would make the dice I already have more probable to have more successes with. We already saw me roll 2 Elder Signs in the past and I couldn't count it, so that could be a good one. This one up here says other investigators in your space may also investigate an unsafe space. That sounds cool, but maybe not necessary right now when I'm trying to succeed at taking enemies down. Down here we have toughness. You may reduce wounds taken and loss of sanity by 1 when attacked or rolling for fire. That actually might be one we want to start focusing on after this one. So Arcane Mastery has been bumped up, and we are now ready to kill off that Hastur Disciple we just hit. So a solid roll overall. This Hastur Disciple has now been removed, and we're going to go ahead and likely do another attack on the cultist here just to wipe out the final one here. Again, now I have better odds. Maybe I'll even be able to use the 2... Oh, look at that. Okay, so we got our 2 successes, and we also take a point of sanity, which I'll take it. So I'm going to jump myself up on the track by 1 here. That's going to kill the cultist, so we've cleared that all up. Now the next question is, what do we do with the last thing? Do we run towards the action, which I guess in this case would just put us here, although we would then be standing right next to our rehearsing actor, which may not be the best, but at the same time, we don't have a doom condition, so that actually wouldn't be, that'd be okay for Bert. He could handle listening to the rambling, unless a Mythos card throws something weird at us around that. But I could also sit still, and I could also just rest and get some of my stress back, my wounds back, and be prepared for the next coming round. I'm going to choose, based on the fact we're probably going to be getting Bert right into the action, I think, or at least potentially trying to help at some point along the way here, is probably to boost up our stress by 2. And this is the tough part. While I'm taking this rest action, do I bump my stress up to the top or the wound to the top for the 3rd point of this rest? That is the tough call. I think I'm going to go wounds just in case I run into a situation where I'm going up against one of the larger enemies or taking a lot of hits. The Mythos card we have is a Suicide Pact. Each investigator with 2 or more yellow sign tokens takes a wound. Oh, well, that's unfortunate because Bert is the investigator with 2 of those yellow sign tokens, so he's going to take a wound. So I guess that choice I just made was probably a wise one because, well, we're right even now with stress and wounds. And then we're going to be summoning a cultist. Oh, at the blue gate. That's right where I am. So the cultist shows up in my space here, pointing his finger directly at me. And instead of being able to freely investigate, I'm going to have to take an attack from this individual. The good news is I have an ability on Bert, Smarts, which allows me to investigate an unsafe space after fighting enemies. So I'll be able to discover something here regardless. But there is something else on Bert's character dashboard that I missed, and I was misinterpreting it because I wasn't reading it specifically. I think I was kind of almost washing away one of the words as I was reading it, which made me have reroll ability during attacks. When the wording of toughness actually states on the dashboard, you have 1 free reroll when attacked or rolling for fire. And there was, I think, a couple times where I made a reroll during an attack and I actually used the reroll during the attack, but most of the time I don't think I used it. So I don't think there was too many times where I took advantage of that, but going forward, I'll be keeping an eye on using that during attacks and not having it happen. But here we have 2 dice coming at us, 2 green dice, not good. And we do have the ability to reroll these because I do have an allotment of stress to use, so that's good. Let's see how bad we get hit from this cultist. Okay, so 1 hit. Do we want to re-roll? It's the question. Maybe. Let's use 1 stress and re-roll it and see what happens. That's about as much stress as I want to use. Oh, shoot. So that didn't work out. I'm going to stop right here. Again, you can keep using stress as much as you want. Currently, I have the ability to use 2 more before I'm completely wiped out of stress, but I'll just take the wound. So now my stress is on the 3rd position, and my wounds, I've got 3 of them. I've only got 3 more wounds to take before I am dead. So we're sitting dead center with Bert right now. Now, just to give you the visual of what I messed up on that I was explaining in the last clip there was around the toughness one where it says you have 1 free reroll when attacked or rolling for fire. So again, I was using a couple times where I was mentioning as if I could get a reroll when attacking. So that was a mistake on my part. Want to acknowledge that. It is worth making sure that you read every single word because some of these are very, very short in their descriptions. And if you misinterpret just 1 word, you can completely misinterpret the ability. I've done that even when I've played this character before. So keep an eye on that and make sure to read your abilities thoroughly through. Again, thanks to the Smarts ability for Bert, I get to discover something after dealing with an enemy being in my space. This one is called Star Actor. It says, my head is getting all foggy when these actors are around. You may take 2 stress to claim the Star Actor. The Star Actor is Gordon. It says, when this actor dies, summon a cultist in your space, but that gives you a health boost. Man, these are the kind of health boosts that Tina needs right now. Or we take the Doom condition if we don't have, or if we just do not take this, we just take the Doom condition. So we are going to take the 2 stress. That's all I have to pay. Literally, I've used all of my stress now to take the Star Actor. This will give us a nice health boost. And just for clarity around boosting your health, what I mean by that is it's giving you the ability to take damage on companion cards instead of your character's health overall. And also, because I recently healed all the way up and then lost 2 health, I'm placing the 2 health up here as well. These tokens will stay on this card until the next trigger, which again will help me with my stress. Now we're back over here with Tina. We have some big decisions to make. I mean, we have a giant enemy, the Dimensional Shambler, standing in the same space as her. So she's probably going to want to start attacking this thing right away. It has 6 health. So we're going to really need to put some effort in to kill this thing off. And of course, as you know, what's really unfortunate about Tina right now is she has no stress remaining to use at the moment. She's on the bleeding edge of death, and basically everything she has that can bolster dice across her character causes her to take a wound to do it, which would of course kill her. So yeah, limited in my options right now. So basically I'm going in with 3 black dice, 1 green die, and we're hoping for the best. Now, granted, I have 3 back-to-back actions here that I could take 3 attack actions with to try to muster up the 6 damage to kill this thing, but if things go south, this could really be bad. So it really does come down to some dice rolls right here, so let's see how this goes, and no ability to change when I roll, so that's fun. Oh, that's a good one. That is a fantastic roll. Okay, so half of its health in 1 action. All right, can we strike lightning in a bottle a second time and have some kind of a great roll like that again? I don't know, but I sure hope so. Second attack coming our way here. Oh, are we just shy? Are we just shy? Because I don't think I can convert the Elder Sign. So that is just 2, putting, oh man, this is tense, because if I have a really bad roll in this next one, I'm in trouble. So we are now up to a total of 5. Here we go, we're grabbing the dice, we're using our 3rd act. We don't have a choice here. Like, I literally don't have a choice, because I can't even sneak with my costume out of this space. I can only sneak away from cultists. I can't do anything to change the outcome of this dice. I have to kill this thing, get this out of my space, and hope the Mythos card does not hit me hard. So here we go. Let's see what happens. Come on, give me a success. Yes. Okay, I wish that had been my second action result. That would have been much better. I have to take the point of sanity because I don't have an option there as well. But at least the Shambler is no longer a part of the equation. That was my full 3 actions. Of course, I'm bumping myself up for that 1 sanity hit, and that's going to end off Tina's turn. The Mythos card that I pulled is called the Yellow Sign. If you're in the same space as Hastur or Hastur Disciple, take 2 stress. I'm not, so that's good. For each stress you cannot take a wound. That would be really bad, so I'm really glad I didn't just jump right into the final space or happen to be anywhere near them. And then it says, if you are not in the same space, gain a Yellow Sign token. Well, this is the best card I could have gotten in this situation right now. And of course, taking these Yellow Sign tokens are not good either, but it's better than the alternate path, which leads to death in my situation. Tina is in a safe space, pulls a discovery card, and gets full band. Look at this. It says, what better way to build tension than music? And that's exactly how I feel right now. Literally everything that happens to Tina, I am stressed about because it could end the game immediately if she takes a wound. It says you may take 2 stress to claim either the band. Oh, look at the band. It would give me the ability to take 3 wounds on it. That would have been super handy. I don't have the stress capacity to do that with Tina, but the other side says, or the trumpet, and that says other investigators in your space gain green when attacking. That's good, I guess. I guess this could have been worse. It could have been one of those doom conditions or something else nasty, but to miss out on the band though for her is huge. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. And that's going to be it for Tina. There's nothing on the end game that's going to matter here because again, she's not within 1 space of any rehearsing actors. The doom condition doesn't trigger. So we move back over to Bert. Now I have what could be a potential opportunity here to get 2 of those unholy life tokens off the cult leader if I can time this right and Tina can handle the craziness she's going to have to endure in order to do this. But on Bert's turn here, as long as I clean up this blue gate and stay still and rest up and get ready, I can be ready for after Tina's attack at the other gate against the cult leader, which will then shift it to this blue gate where Bert can then attack it on his next turn. If things go the way I hope they do. That's kind of part of the fun in this. I don't know if it's going to pan out the way I want it to, but that will be awesome if it does. So that's going to be the plan going forward. I'm going to go ahead and take down this cultist right now. So again, with Bert here, and again, remember, I'm not getting a reroll this time, but my Elder Signs, of course, can be converted, which is huge. We just need 2 successes here to kill it. Oh, there we go. We got it cleanly. So that cultist is gone, which is awesome. And we're also going to go ahead right now and rest. The rest isn't going to bring back a ton for me, but it does bring back some things. We get our wounds and stress back. And actually, you know what? We might just rest twice, honestly, because if we just rest twice, we're going to be able to get ourselves all the way back up. All right, heading to the Mythos card. This one says, is this real life? And it does have a trigger on it, so that is really bad because I'm trying to make this plan happen again before the advancement on the summoning track. But it says here, move all enemies one space towards you. Wow, so that's going to be literally every enemy on the game board moving one space towards Bert. And then flip all actors to the rehearsing side. Oh, that's going to be a problem. So we're going to go ahead first and move all the enemies one space towards Bert. And then all the actors taking a break, which is 3 of them, are all going to start rehearsing again. Interesting. A very, very interesting Mythos card to get right now. And not a good one in terms of the icon because we're 1 away now. Now, Bert is in a safe space, so that's good news. He gets the camera here, at least potentially. It says an actor always wants to be in front of one of these. You may take 2 stress to claim the camera. If you do not, you claim the doom condition. So we got to take the camera then if we don't want that doom condition. It says you may bring actors with you when you leave a space. Well, let's go ahead and use the 2 stress to take it because I don't really want to have to deal with a doom condition. And just like that, the 2 stress has been paid and the camera is on the left-hand side. All right, it all comes down to Tina here because I really need to make a big time attack. So I got 3 black dice, 1 green die for the brawling skill. And remember, I can combine all the successes and pick the targets of my attack with those wounds. So it really is nice. I can distribute them as I want to. My aim here is to kill off the cult leader, to hit it once, taking off one of the unholy tokens, and also hopefully take out the Hastur disciple because it has a nasty ability, which I don't want to have to resolve if it's still in my space. The cultist, if it's there, I don't mind because I could use my costume to get out of there or find some way around that cultist. I don't mind that. But let's see how we do. We're going to do an attack right out of the gates here because I obviously can't rest with these enemies in my space. We are maxed out on our stress. Now, just taking a look at what I got for cards. My trumpet won't help me. The sun knife would kill me if I used it. The costume's useless and the doom condition doesn't help me. So I'm pretty much just stuck with what I've got here. So here we go. Oh, that was a really good roll. Wow. Okay, I am okay with that. That's perfect. That literally couldn't have, that is exactly what I wanted to have happen. So literally at this point, we're going to kill off 1 of the unholy tokens from the bottom of this cult leader. So that's absolutely awesome. So there's only 1 left. Haha, the plan might actually work. And then the other 2 is going to go up against this individual right here. And of course, the second we take off that token, that individual is wrapping around based on the episode card. It goes back to the blue portal. And this is perfect because when Bert goes ahead with his turn in the future, he is more than ready to put down some serious pain on the cultists. And the only thing that could screw this up is at the end of Tina's turn with the Mythos card. If it happens to have an icon on it, then we know it'll place another life back underneath. So that's going to be the fun part. Will that happen? We'll find out, I guess. Also, as a result of the dice roll, she's going up 1 on the crazy track, and she's going to go ahead and attack the cultist in her space now for her second action. Let's go ahead and see if we can pull this off. Oh, that's a lot of sanity hits. So, wow. Okay, well, we got what we needed. That cultist is definitely dead, but we're taking some big-time hits on the sanity, which actually are going to have us hit the next insanity threshold. So in this case, we're going to go up 2 on the track here. That unlocks another die here for her, which is great going forward. She's going to have an extra green die. At this point, we're also going to go ahead and trigger this right here, placing a fire token in her space, and then dealing wounds equal to the other individuals in the space, but there isn't anybody else in there right now that's other. And then we're going to go ahead and bump something up over here. The question is, what do I want to do? So I really like this skill where you can potentially take a wound and gain a lot of dice. That sounds pretty handy, especially now that she has her brawling skill going for her. If I bump her brawling skill again, it says you have 2 free rerolls when attacking a target in your space. That is also really good at managing kind of what's going on. So maybe we do that first and then we'll go after the top one a little bit later on. So we'll just bump this up to the next highest tier. The fire token's also been placed in her space. She's got 1 more action left, and absolutely, yes, I'm going to rest. She needs to rest to get herself off of death's doorstep. So we're gonna go 1, 2, I'm gonna really just go hard with this, I think, although tough call. Maybe we'll go to here and we'll actually bring this one back too. And the reason I'm doing that is because we are in a safe space. So we're going to be able to get one of those cards, and I want to make sure that if it's a positive thing, I can afford to buy it with stress, but this is still keeping my wounds low, but there's not a lot of enemies around right now, so we should be okay. The card off the top of the discovery deck is props. It says a discarded pile of movie equipment. You may take 2 stress. See, this is the reason why I did this, because most of them take 2 stress, to claim an item from the discard pile. Interesting. If you do not, claim the doom condition. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, there is one card, thank goodness, in the discard pile, and it's this one right here. Remember this one from earlier on? It's worth 2 stress. We'll go ahead and take the fuel bomb this time in case we ever need to make some serious damage and fire in a particular space. Now at the end of Tina's turn, we check for fire on her dashboard. There isn't any. The only way you get them on your dashboard is if you leave a space with fire. If you're in a space with fire, you're just cozy at the moment. It's fine. Everything is fine. And then the other thing to mention is the doom condition will trigger now because I am within one of a rehearsing actor, but I actually have the ability to take stress now without taking a wound, so we just knock that down by 1, and we're golden. Well, cult leader, it looks like Bert is ready to lay a little bit of pain your way. So in this case, I think the first thing I want to do is attack. It's pretty straightforward. I want to knock off the last token here, and this will disrupt the ritual if I'm successful. So let's go ahead and grab some dice. So Bert has his 3 black dice, and I don't think I even get the green dice still. I still am stuck on that front. Again, I don't get a reroll, but my elder signs are successes, so that's good. Let's see how we do. We just need 2+ results. Okay, that is not what we want to see. So I do have the ability to reroll here, so I could take 1, I could use 1 stress, which I will do. So I'll use one of the 2 stress that I have to reroll one of these. Give me a success. There we go. So that's the 2 we need, and that is going to do it. So based on this right here, 2+ successes, remove an unholy life token. This individual now has none less. So it says remove all the souls infesting the cult leader. So we've done that. All the souls are gone. So in other words, have no unholy life tokens under it. And then after the ritual is disrupted, remove the cult leader from the board and place a cultist in its space. We'll resolve all of that inside the end of the turn for Bert. I still have 2 more actions to take. Now, for all intent and purposes, the cult leader is dead, so I am in a space where I can rest. I'm going to go ahead and rest right now up to the full allotment of stress, and then I'm going to spend 3 stress to use the director's ability. You may take 3 stress to flip all actors on their break side. And the benefit around this is not going to help Bert right now because he doesn't have a doom condition. It's going to help Tina, who still has a doom condition, to stop having to take stress from rehearsing actors. That is a pretty awesome discovery card and was worth everything. Now, on top of it, I still have another action left. So, seeing as I plan on staying where I'm at, I'm going to go ahead and just rest right back up. So, at the end of the day, Bert is going to be full in terms of his allotment of stress, and he has no wounds. This is absolutely crazy because we were able to pull off killing off all those unholy markers at the perfect time because look, an icon showed up which would have put another one back on it and delayed things even further. So we got exactly what we needed at the right time. Pretty crazy. We got a lot of these icons really quick. It says here we're supposed to move this particular creature around the game board. We don't have it on the game board and play right now, so we don't have to worry about any of this. Basically, the only thing we have to worry about is the summoning of it at the bottom at the blue gate, which will put it in the same space as me, though. It seems this gate is cursed. It just constantly keeps pumping out some pretty bad stuff. So in this case here, against this enemy, it has an ability on its card, which is just off screen here, and it's just to the left of the dimensional shambler, but it says it adds a success, basically an automatic success when attacking if there's no other investigators in the same space. So it gets 1 success right out of the gates before it even does anything, but it gets to roll 2 black dice against me. I do have the ability to reroll because I have stress to spend if I want to. Here we go. We got 2 hits overall, 1 that was guaranteed and 1 off the die here. So do I want to just take the 2 hits or maybe use a stress? I'll probably use 1 stress, I guess, because I can't really do anything about the guaranteed hit, but I can reroll this one. Oh, worst. Okay, do I want to keep going with it? Probably not. I'll just, I'll take 1 more roll at it. Let's see. Okay, that's a little bit better. So we're good. All right, so we only take 1 wound, dropping us down 1 position. So basically we lost. And again, when we take that wound, we're also going to place that wound on top of the condition card that Bert has as well. So now it has 3 tokens on there. So there's the attack. Again, Bert has smarts, so even though he's attacked and he's in an unsafe space, he still gets to check out a discovery card there. He ends up finding Snake or Venom, props for Dance of Death. You may take 2 stress to take either the Snake of Venom or the Trained Snake. So on the left there it says discard this card before rolling an attack to gain 3 green dice. That's nuts. That could be really good. Trained Snake says while you have it, gain 1 level in Brawling. Oh, well, I don't have Brawling. It would give me the benefit of extra health though, which is nice. That's tough, but I think the Snake Venom would be best. So the Snake Venom has now been put on the left-hand side for Bert, and also the one thing I also want to correct is the fact that I used 2 stress to do 2 rerolls during that last dice roll, but my toughness here allows me a free reroll when being attacked. So I didn't have to pay for both, just one of them. So this is going to go back by 1. So now we move to the end of turn, and this is where things get really interesting based on timing. So first off, the thing you check for is for fire, but we don't have any fire on Bert to deal with, so we're fine there. The next thing is you check the Mythos discard pile. If there's 3 of those icons, which there are, then we go through all the stuff in terms of advancing the Elder One, adding an Unholy token back onto the Cult Leader, which is concerning because it has none right now. After you do that, then you check if the Elder One summons. So if the red space has been reached or the ritual is disrupted, then you move the stage 1 card to the side and resolve stage 2 and go on from there. So what's crazy is, even though I thought I was in the clear based on how you technically resolve the end of turn, it appears the cult leader does not leave the board and become a cultist until the disruption of the ritual takes place, which is a step after checking whether or not you have 3 symbols in the discard pile for the Mythos. This is brutal. So what this is going to mean is that that cult leader is still ticking. The Mythos deck has been reshuffled back together. Hastur is going to advance on the summoning track. Another Unholy Life token is being dropped underneath the cult leader. Now, based on the resolving of all this, the cult leader is still alive. It would not be staying at the blue portal. It would be moving based on destroying the soul to the yellow portal. Now, I've zoomed in on the episode card mainly because there might be some people that are wondering, hey, are you sure you're doing this correctly? Like, don't mess yourself over. But I am. And I've checked this over. I've read a number of different areas here to be 100% certain and confident of what I'm doing here. Now, I'll explain it through one more time. So essentially, throughout the entirety of this video, every time I did a Destroy Soul action, I always rolled to try and get 2 or more successes to be able to remove 1 Unholy Life token from the Cult Leader token underneath, and then move him to the next normal gate. That is the piece I didn't do on the final token that was underneath of him. So when I removed the Unholy Life token, the last one underneath of him, I should have moved the Cult Leader token to the yellow gate at that time. It's just he should be over at the yellow gate. That's why I'm going to move him right now. Now, in terms of the end of the turn and the timing of the resolving of things, it's just pretty nuts because I would have thought that having him down to no tokens means an automatic ritual disruption, and bam, we're summoning in Hastur, and here we go, let's take him down. But the check for the discard of the Mythos cards is first, and there was 3 icons in there. So that advances Hastur, and when you advance Hastur, you get this, which is placing an Unholy Life token underneath the Cult Leader token, and there you go. Just in that tiny window, there is an opportunity for this thing to stay alive. So it's back on the board at the yellow gate with 1 Unholy Life token that we still need to deal with. So the cult leader is now down here with 1 of the life tokens underneath, and also as part of this, each investigator takes 1 stress for each rehearsing actor within 1 space of them, or wounds if they don't have the ability to take the stress, but we don't have to worry about it because we put everybody on break thanks to Bert's ability, so that's awesome timing there. And then the Hastur card, which is actually to the left of this and a bit off screen, says you gain a yellow sign token, summon the Hastur disciple at the nearest gate, and 1 cultist at each other gate. So it was Bert's turn, so he gets the Hastur disciple spawning in his place, and then 1 cultist showing up at each of the other gates. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up part number 1 of Cthulhu Death May Die, Season 2, Episode 6, Endgame. There were lots of twists and turns inside of this one. At one moment there, I thought Tina, actually for a few turns there, I thought Tina was going to be dead and this was going to be over. I also thought I took the cult leader down cleanly, but the cult leader is still alive and we have work to do to try and take it down before it gets another light token added to it through the advancement on the summoning track. This has been a blast, as it always is, with twists and turns throughout. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you played this episode? Are you enjoying this particular one? And as always, keep on rolling solo.